Well, that was different. So I just got out of the Thunderbolts. Let's talk about it. Directed by Jake Schreier, stars Florence Pugh, David Harbour, Sebastian Stan, Lewis Pullman, a woman named Hannah, Wyatt Russell. Hannah John Kamen. That's Hannah. Now let me get the thing out of the way that pisses people off every time I review a Marvel movie. I'm not a Marvel fan. Now, I do this thing where I go to the movies every week and I try to see all the major films that come out. So I've seen most of the Marvel movies that have come out since Black Widow. So let's just address the comments before they get typed out. Savannah, how can you review a Marvel film if you haven't seen all the Marvel movies? Because a movie is a movie is a movie is a movie. It's either a good film or it's not. Before I get into the review of things, because I know the fact that there's so much homework involved in the Marvel universe, it just upsets people's nerves. How much homework do you have to do for this movie? I personally would say the most you need to do is watch the trailer from the last Captain America movie, the one that came out in February, because they reference it. Just so you know kind of where we are in the timeline here. We're post that movie. But for the most part, except for her character, we get pretty good background info on who these people are. We don't need to do homework. Where they were in previous films has really... there's been evolution since then. I think it would just confuse you. So just stick with what they tell you in this movie and go from there. There is a mid-credit scene and an in-credit scene. I feel like I should tell y'all that. This really is Florence Pugh's movie. Like, this is her vehicle. She runs the show here. She gives an incredible performance. Her performance for me was just a highlight. Maybe I'm biased because I love her. But no, she really knows how to balance emotions very well, because she's a very gifted emotional actor. She emotes very well, and there is an emotional center in this movie that I haven't seen in previous Marvel films. I mean, I think about like the Avengers and just the band of characters there. They all have kind of an emotional center. There's some sort of, trauma or issue in their past, something they're battling and dealing with, right? But this takes it to a whole nother level. This movie right here is a commentary on mental health in general. We're talking, loneliness, depression, addiction, and, self-worth. And, we were introduced to Yelena in this movie, where she's really battling what is her purpose? What is she doing? What is the meaning of all of it? And she's battling loneliness. Julia Louis-Dreyfus as our villain, Valentina. Oh, no, I was kind of annoyed with her, to be honest, and I don't know if that was intentional. She felt more comic booky than everyone else. We get a glimpse into why she is the way she is, but it just wasn't enough for me. I mean, she was just bad. There weren't really many layers to her at all. When it comes to, backstories and how these characters all fit together, she to me was also just, a weak piece in terms of explaining how everyone fits. For those who come into this a little blind, they don't know who these people are. They don't know these characters' names. They just know Bucky's here, and that's why they showed up. Now, I don't know what it's like in the graphic novels, but our villain here, who our villain supernatural thing here, there's kind of a metaphor that we kind of see in the beginning that kind of foreshadows what's to come. I love how that dot connected between, that conversation between Bob and Yelena, where they're talking about, what do you do with the emptiness? How do you deal with that? And then we later connect that back to what he becomes later. And it's this kind of physical manifestation of that feeling. I thought that was brilliantly done. Now, when I say that was different, I enjoyed this for the most part. I really did. That was good fun. I love, when anti-heroes are done right, because these are a bunch of just ragtag anti-heroes who can't seem to do anything right. They're, got all these amazing powers and gifts, and they're doing it for all the wrong reasons, which is why they come together, because they have one last job from Valentina, who, runs this company where she's been experimenting on human beings, and now she's in trouble with Congress because she's also the CIA director. I think that's what they had said. And now she's trying to clear up everything, get rid of all the evidence, but They're the loose ends. They've all been hired at some point to destroy this, that, and the third. They're the last little loose ends, and that's where our story kind of comes together. It's funny, it's goofy, there's good chemistry, I think. The movie felt short. I felt like we were kind of, we got the short end of the stick with this. The movie kind of felt like filler. Like, this is just kind of putting to be in the middle of something to kind of bridge a few gaps until we get to Doomsday next year. Is Doomsday next year? I know all of these characters are coming back, and I think we needed a reason for those characters to come back. And that's what this movie felt like. It felt like we need a reason for Doomsday to make sense, so here we go with the Thunderbolts. This felt like filler, but good filler. Now, I don't know how you Marvel fans are going to feel about it, because I don't know what your relationship is with, the MCU, and if you also have a relationship with the comic books as well. Again, this really is a commentary on mental health, and it's heavy. Very heavy. What a bold choice for an action film. Not that bold. I mean, if you look at all the different superhero movies, they all deal with trauma in some sort of way, but this just felt heavier, if that makes sense. I don't know how you're going to feel about that heaviness. I don't know what your expectations are going into this movie, what you're looking forward to. Normally in our Marvel films, especially when it's, an ensemble, if you will, we're used to big, elaborate fight scenes that seem impossible. This is different. There is fighting, but it's not quite physical. It's just different. And I don't know how you're going to feel about that. I don't know if you're going to enjoy that kind of in-depthness that it has. I don't want to give too much away. Or if you're going to be disappointed because you're expecting more butt kicking and blood and whatnot. I don't know what your expectations are, how you're going to feel about it. But I don't want to set you up and be like, oh my God, it's so good, action, carnage. And then you go in and be like, why are we talking about my feelings? That felt like group therapy. You know what I mean? This Marvel film felt more practical than the other Marvel films of late that rely so heavily on CGI. Now, the CGI is, Disney CGI, and I don't want to talk about that. We can argue about that another time. But it's not the best. I feel like Disney has really slacked off on CGI in general. But this movie definitely felt more practical. Like, they took advantage of on-location sets. Very physical, sound stages and studios and whatnot, and not trying to fill the empty spaces with something plastic and fake, like something you build in a computer. So yeah, there was a realness to it, a texture to it that I haven't seen in other Marvel films recently. Now, I know some are saying this is the best Marvel film we've had in years. And that wouldn't be a lie. Are we counting Deadpool and Wolverine? I don't count Deadpool and Wolverine. I mean, yeah, that's Marvel, right? But it feels different. It feels different. It's something else. This is so if I push that aside, because I love Deadpool and Wolverine, like I love that movie. If you push that aside, yeah, this is definitely the best Marvel film we've had in quite some time. Definitely. Better than the last Captain America movie we had. Better than the Marvels. Quite frankly, I'd like to go back to the team for the Marvels and just, point them in the direction of this film. Like, this is what you do with a female lead, okay? This is what you need to do. This is how it's supposed to be. There is strength in our femininity, okay? You don't have to strip us of our femininity just to show how strong we are in action films. I don't know what else to say. That was fun. I like that. It was very simple. A very simple story. But again, I felt like the story was just too short. I felt like this cast had more to give and the story didn't have enough meat in it. That's my biggest complaint. And then the, emotional depth of it all caught me a little off guard. Like, I could tell from the jump that this was going to be a deeper emotional movie. When they took it to the next level, though, yeah, that caught me off guard a little bit, and I was slightly disappointed, but having sat and thought about it, I kind of appreciate it. 7.5, 8 out of 10, somewhere in there. Go Thunderbolts.